Hey, how's it going, fight fans? Welcome to mindforcombat. If you're new to the channel, my name's Rohan. It's my platform where I do MMA and boxing related content. If you're new here, why don't you help me to grow my platform by simply hitting the subscribe button, liking the video, maybe disliking it if you don't like it, and getting involved in the conversation below. Anyways, with that said, let's get into the fight breakdown. I'm going to be breaking down the upcoming fight between Demian Maia and Ben Askren. So this is a great fight. It's a great fight in a lot of ways, because firstly, we need to see how Ben Askren responds to a loss. Not only a loss, but the most devastating loss that practically anyone has ever had. He got completely flatlined by George Masvidal, Street Jesus, in what was a highly anticipated and heated fight that had a lot of animosity going into it. There was tons of trash talk from Ben Askren. He asked for George Masvidal. He got the fight, and he got flatlined in 5 seconds. The fastest knockout in the history of UFC. It's absolutely crazy. It's one of the most insane things I've ever seen, and Ben Askren needs to be able to rebound from that if he's to have any career in the UFC and to live up to any of the nonsense that he's been talking coming into the UFC. He fights Demian Maia, one of the most respected grapplers in the history of mixed martial arts, who finds himself on a 2-fight win streak after going through a rough 3-fight losing streak, and he's set to really put Ben Askren through a real test. This is obviously going to be in Brazil as well. Demian Maia is going to be the hometown favourite, so Ben Askren's got a tall order ahead of him, and I'm really excited to see how this fight of grapplers plays out. Now, let's go through the Taylor's tape and break this fight down. Demian Maia comes into this fight at 41 years of age. He's actually going to be 42 on the 6th of November. Demian Maia is getting older, and that's something to consider when thinking about this fight, because at 41 going into 42 years of age, how much has Demian Maia got? He's been around for a long time. He's had almost 30 professional fights in the UFC. He's 27-9 as a mixed martial artist overall, and actually I believe I think he's had 30 fights in the UFC. Oh, excuse the sirens. So yeah, I think Demian Maia's had 30 professional fights in the UFC. He's been around for a long time, competed in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, won world championships in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he's obviously had a lot of tough fights as well. Think back to 2010, he was fighting Anderson Silva for a middleweight world title. That's how long Demian Maia's been around. Ben Askren's 35 years old. He's no spring chicken, but 6 to 7 years the younger coming into this fight. He's also a guy who's not taking as much wear and tear and damage as Demian Maia has. So he obviously got brutally flatlined by George Masvidal, and you got to wonder how that impacts him fighting so soon. But generally in his career, he's dominated people with his wrestling, so he hasn't taken tons of damage, and you would consider him to be the fresher man. But to be honest with you, they're both in the twilights of their career. They're both later in age in terms of fighting career, and coming into this fight, Demian Maia's age is something that we should pay attention to. Demian Maia comes into the fight with a record of 27 wins and 9 losses. He's had 36 professional fights. He's had tons of experience, loads of main event fights, fought for 2 UFC world titles, and been in the tons of big fights, so he's got tons of experience. Ben Askren is 19-1 with 1 no contest. He's had 21 fights, sorry. And so he's also got tons of big fight experience. He's been a Bellator world champion. His main event cards in Bellator. He's been a One Championship world champion. Main event cards in One Championship. He's a veteran and respected martial artist with world championship credentials. He's the real deal, despite his so-so performances in the UFC. But it's ever going to amount to UFC, now's the time. Demian Maia stands at 6'1", which makes him about 2 inches taller than Ben Askren, who stands at 5'11". They both have a 72-inch reach. I don't know how much their reach or height is going to matter in this. I believe this is going to be a complete grappling fight. Demian Maia's style is obviously grappling heavy. He's got BJJ specialist, and he's got hands. Sometimes he forgets what to do with them, but he went through a stage where he was developing his skills in his stand-up, and I point towards the Mark Munoz fight, and that's actually key coming into this one. Ben Askren's fighting style was strictly his wrestling. He relies completely on his wrestling to get the victories, and that's no doubt what he's going to be trying to implement in this fight, which makes this fight so intriguing to me. Let's look at some of the key wins. For Demian Maia, you go back and he's beating some really key guys, especially considering this fight he's beating wrestlers such as Chael Sonnen. He beat a big, strong grappler in Dong Hyun Kim. He's beaten John Fitch. He's beaten Ryan LaFleur, another big, strong wrestler. John Fitch is another big, strong wrestler. He beat Gunnar Nelson, a respected grappler. Matt the Immortal Brown. He's beaten Street Jesus himself, George Masvidal. And more recently, he beat Anthony Rocco Martin in his most recent fight. And that's a guy who I respect, and I think is really on the come up, and he's one for you guys to watch out for. For Ben Askren, you've got to look outside of the UFC for his best career wins, with the exception of Robbie Lawler. And he has beaten Robbie Lawler. He's beaten Lyman Good back when Lyman Good was an undefeated Bellator world champion. He beat Jay Haran back when Jay Haran was a long win streak. that consisted of Strikeforce wins, Bellator wins. Jay Horan was the real deal when he won a Bellator tournament coming into that as well. He's beaten Douglas Lima, former two-time Bellator world champion, real deal fighter right there. He's beaten Andrei Koreshkov, a former Bellator world champion. He's beaten Shinya Aoki, a much smaller Shinya Aoki, but I respect Shinya Aoki. He's really deadly grappler as well. Like I mentioned, he beat Robbie Lawler. For Demian Maia, his issues coming into this fight is his age. He's going to be 42 years old soon. You've got to wonder how that's going to impact him coming into this fight, and his lack of stand-up, which is pretty much the same for Ben Askren. He's obviously got no stand-up as well. He's 35 years old himself, no spring chicken, so they're both going to be slowing down, so maybe that will kind of even itself out. And also that brutal knockout he just suffered at the hands of, at the knees of George Masvidal. You got to wonder how that's going to impact him mentally coming into this fight, and if it will have any impact at all, really. The X factor for Demian Maia is going to be his BJJ, and for Ben Askren is going to be his wrestling. Now, how does this fight play out? Let me get into the prediction. When I'm thinking about this fight, what I keep on thinking about is the fight between Demian Maia versus Mark Munoz. Now, the difference was that Mark Munoz had really good striking, Ben Askren doesn't, but a lot of that fight was fought in the grappling realm. What Mark Munoz was able to do was to use his wrestling to, hold Demian Maia in position, not get himself submitted, and score enough points throughout the fight to get the victory. That's one of my favourite fights of all time, actually. It's a great fight. Ben Askren was able to what I think Ben Askren will be able to do is similar to Mark Munoz in the sense that I think he'll be able to get into them grappling exchanges, but use his wrestling to hold his posture and avoid being submitted. And I think he'll be able to do that for long enough in the course of the 5 rounds for him to be able to grind out a victory. Now, that's no given. I think Demian Maia's got the better stand-up of the two. Obviously, he's no knockout, he's a stand-up artist. But he has got the better stand-up of the two, and I think that Demian Maia will be able to cause him some problems all round. I think he's the better all-round fighter. And in terms of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he may be able to choke out Ben Askren, which is very, very possible. Ben Askren does leave himself out there a lot to be submitted, but I think that's because he's so confident in his grappling. Overall, I think that Ben Askren is going to be able to rely on his wrestling, and he's going to be able to hold posture, he's going to be able to hold position, he's going to be able to maintain distance, and he's going to be able to protect himself when he does get caught in submissions. He's going to be able to navigate out of the submissions and utilise his grappling to a victory. So for my official prediction, fight fans, I'm going to pick Ben Askren to be able to grind out a victory via unanimous decision, utilising his wrestling in what should be a great grappling display. Now, there's some schools of thoughts that say, well, two strong grapplers fighting each other turns into a bad stand-up fight. I don't see that happening here. I think Ben Askren and Demian Maia are going to be more than happy to involve or engage in a grappling fight. So, fight fans, why don't you comment below? Let me know what you guys think and see how this fight going, and let me know what you think about my breakdown. Thank you for watching, guys. I'm Rohan. This is Mindful Combat. Like I said, like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that jazz. Thank you.